Hello, this is Blanca, and welcome to another episode of Your Health is Your Greatest Wealth. I am very happy to invite my guest, Barry Bevier. By popular demand, we had requests to have Barry come back and talk to us about the brain. So, Barry is a licensed brain health trainer through the Amen Clinics, and he also works in alternative natural modalities such as stem cell nutrition supplementation. And with that, Barry, welcome to our show. I'm very excited to have you here today and just learn a lot more about brain health.
Thanks,
so thank you
Blanca.
for being here today.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be back.
So, Barry, what will you be talking to us about today about brain health?
Well, today I would like to go through, as we talked about it earlier, I took a brain health program with Dr. Amen and Dr. Joseph McClendon a few years ago called Brain Revolution. And the culmination of that was several programs that we have prepared for us to present. One's called Brain Thrive by 25. It's aimed at teaching, teenagers and young adults how they can take care of their brain so they'll have better cognition and reduce the potential of brain aging. And one is designed for the workplace, and this one is called Bright Minds. So what we're going to talk about today is Bright Minds, and that's how to keep your brain healthy as you get older. Doesn't matter what age you are. What we're going to talk about is applicable, but the main focus is to keep it from aging and keep you from, I like to say, losing your mind. You don't have to lose your mind as you get older. So it's Bright Minds, and the first letter of each word is an acronym. It's an acronym. The first letter represents something that's important to good brain health.
That's great. So let's start with B of Bright Minds. What does the B stand for, Barry?
Okay, so B stands for blood flow. And we all know that good blood flow is essential for overall health, but it's especially critical with brain health because blood carries the nutrients and oxygen to the brain. And we know the brain needs oxygen. So low blood flow is one of the main predictors of Alzheimer's. And some research out there that suggests actually that our brain cells don't age, rather our blood vessels age. So anything that damages circulation and restricts getting the nutrients to our brain and the oxygen is going to, be detrimental to our overall brain health. So what can we do to keep blood flow high? Too much caffeine and, smoke. We know smoking is bad. That goes without saying, but too much caffeine can restrict blood flow, but a little bit actually dilates the blood vessels. So a little bit of caffeine is good. Maintaining good blood pressure through nutrition and keeping your blood pressure in check. So take care of your heart. Anything that's good for your heart is good for your brain. So what are some things that increase the blood flow and the oxygen? Well, exercise. We all hear exercise, at least 30 minutes a day, 5 times a week. Walking is great. Brisk walking is really all the exercise you need to get the blood flowing and improve circulation. Using a vibration type equipment like a power plate helps improve the blood flow. Hyperbaric oxygen is very good for the blood flow. It increases your circulation. And then there's a lot of foods out there and herbs. Beets are great. Chilies, peppers are great. Foods that are high in vitamin E and vitamin B help. And then herbs and spices like turmeric, ginger, cinnamon are all good. I put a little bit of turmeric, cinnamon, and ginger in my coffee every morning and swirl it up. So I get a little extra dose there. So that's what B is. B is all about things you can do to increase blood flow.
I actually also wanted to point out something that you said that caught my attention, and I wanted to point it out for our viewers. You mentioned walking. That is such an underrated form of easy exercise that most people can do. And that in and of itself has so many health benefits. So I highly encourage people that have not been active, that don't exercise, start with walking. Get a family member, get a neighbor, just start moving. And so thank you for that.
That's right. Yeah. I have a 12-year-old Labrador Retriever. And so, walking him every day is good for him and it's good for me as well. If you can walk 2 or 3 miles an hour, that's even better. Get a brisk walk, get your heart pumping a little bit.
Thank you, Barry. So R, what does the R stand for?
Well, R stands for retirement and the things that we can do after we leave the workforce or our businesses to keep our health up. A lot of people, when they retire, they get sedentary. If they're living alone, they may not maintain good nutrition and maybe spend more time in front of the TV or the computer. So we should do things that help keep our brains active and our bodies active. And we can slow and reduce the aging process to decrease the risk of our brains, getting older. So, and social activities are part of it. Being lonely, I said being sedentary, poor nutrition, all accelerate memory loss. So, what can we do? Well, maintain your good nutrition, stay active physically. We talked about walking. Continue involvement to be around people. That's very important. And volunteering with organizations, whether it's a church or a kids organization or some sort of nonprofit, that nonprofits always need help. They always need volunteers. So that's a good place to be around people and also have a purpose. And then we hear a lot about to keep your brain healthy, about challenging your brain and things like don't stop learning, continue to read. If you played an instrument, if you played something musical, get involved in that. Challenge your brain. When we stop learning, our brain starts to die. And telomeres are very important in the whole aging process. They are the end caps of our chromosomes that protects our genes. And so telomere shortening is associated with aging, and it's especially important with memory loss, but it's not inevitable. So keeping some of the health habits we've talked about already, and exercising will help with avoiding the shortening of the telomeres. Coordination activities are really good. One thing that Dr. Amen talks about is his favorite is ping pong, because it involves physical activity, moving around, and it also involves hand-eye coordination. Learning a foreign language can also help. So things that interest you, that keep your mind active as well as keeping you physically active, are great.
Such a wealth of information. And the one thing out of the many that I wanted to ask you about, actually, I want to ask you about so many, but the one thing I wanted to point out is that you mentioned people feeling alone and lonely. And there has actually been research that shows that family meals, social meals, eating with others actually also decreases depression. So that is something that all of us have to be aware about, whether you're retired or not. Just being around others is such a huge health benefit. Those social aspects cannot be underrated. They're just so valuable for mental health and wellness.
Exactly. And like I said, there's a lot of things you can do to do that. If you're involved in a church, get more active in the church. We talked about walking. Grab some friends, grab some neighbors, and go out for a walk every day. And you get the double effect of the social activity as well as the walking.
Right. Thank you, Barry. So that takes us to the I in bright minds. What does the I stand for, Barry?
So I is for inflammation. And there's two types of inflammation. We hear a lot about inflammation. There's two types of inflammation. There's inflammation that's good, that helps you heal. So if you cut yourself or have a disease or an exposed to a toxin or something, your body becomes inflamed as part of the healing process. So that's short term, that's okay. What we're talking about here is chronic inflammation. It's like having a low-level fire in your body that's destroying it. Inflammation can even increase risk of depression, and it's definitely associated with dementia. And so high C-reactive protein is an indicator of inflammation, as is low omega-3 levels. And so omega-3s are something that you can supplement, and fish and coconut oil, olive oil all contain omega-3s. So having joint pain is an indication of inflammation, just another indicator. So the best way to decrease inflammation is to eliminate or avoid things as much as you can that cause it. And most inflammation comes from our diets, processed foods and sugar and high glycemic foods. So eat foods that get rid of the sweets, get rid of the sugars, substitute it with fruit, with low glycemic fruits, and then maintain good oral health. We're hearing now, you probably hear a lot about it in the media, where gut health is important. Well, inflammation starts in the gut because of our foods, but also maintaining good oral health can affect your gut health. So good oral health is important in kind of the starting point of arresting inflammation. What are other things that can help slow down inflammation? Well, turmeric is, whether it's a supplement or you use it in cooking, is a great anti-inflammatory. And I mentioned omega-3 supplements. And there's other supplements on the market that are focused on reducing inflammation.
Thank you, Barry. So, Barry, the topic of supplementation has come up a lot recently. For our viewers that don't take supplements and don't understand why they should take supplements, what would your answer be to that?
My answer is, even if you eat clean organic foods, even if you have a garden and grow a lot of your own foods, the nutrients just aren't in the foods that we need to really optimize our health and protect our brains. So supplementation I think is essential. And good quality supplements, buying a multivitamin from the grocery store isn't what I'm talking about here. I take a lot of supplements, and I focus on immune boosting, inflammation. I take a specialized supplement that releases my own stem cells, which are the building blocks of our body, and helps with slowing the aging process and keeping our brains healthy.
Back to the bright minds. What does the G stand for?
Okay, so G is for genetics. And genetics do play a role in our overall health. However, they don't control everything. Many people think that because a family member had a chronic disease or died of a certain illness, that it runs in the family and they're going to get it. Well, that's not necessarily true, because so much of our wellness and our aging is related to our lifestyle habits. That being said, if you have a family member that has a chronic disease, and we'll talk about brain health, Alzheimer's or dementia, that does increase your risk, but it's not a death sentence. It should be a wake-up call to make the changes that you need to keep your brain healthy. One of the things Dr. Raymond talked about was that 50% of adults in America over the age of 80 have some form of severe memory loss, dementia, or Alzheimer's. And it's his belief that comes, and the belief of a lot of other holistic medical doctors, is that comes from more of our lifestyle than the genetics. and that it really should be about 5% and more of a rare disease. And so we can combat the genetics that we may be carrying to reduce our potential for getting memory loss as we get older. And again, it's foods, vitamin D, foods like blueberries, sage, turmeric, again, because of the anti-inflammatory. Green tea. Green tea seems to be a common thread in all the blue zones where people live longer and have healthier brains as they get older. So if you think you may be at risk because of genetics, certainly go to your doctor. There's screenings that can be done to show you what the potential is. But by all means, put some of these better eating and lifestyle habits into play so you can reduce the chances of genetics being a role in the aging process.
Yeah, I love that, Barry. And I'm a little new to Dr. Amen. I have, however, been exposed to Dr. Joe Dispenza, and he educates on epigenetics. So it's just very empowering to know that you can control aspects of your health just with your personal habits and lifestyle changes.
Exactly. And, I'm a big proponent of taking our health into our own hands. Doctors are important, listen to them, but, do what's best for you. And, a lot of people make excuses. They say it's too hard to do the things now to be healthy, or it's too expensive, or, I'm depriving myself of that, piece of pie after dinner. But, trust me, losing your memory and independence is hard too, and it's expensive, and it affects your family. So, take care of yourself now so you'll have a better life later.
I love that conversation, Barry, and that is something we can probably delve in later at another episode. Moving along, because I know our time today is limited. What does the H stand for?
H is head trauma. And a lot of people think, head trauma to the brain is, your head hitting the windshield in a car accident, or hitting the ground, or a concussion, football players hitting each other in the head. It doesn't even take a blow to the head to cause injury to the brain. Our brains are soft, about the consistency of butter. They're made up of fats and tissue, and about at least 70% water. So if you can imagine the consistency of butter, that's what our brain is. And our skulls are very hard and have a lot of bony edges inside. So, it doesn't, like I say, it doesn't take a blow to the head. Just, a snap to the head causes your brain to move around and can hit the skull and bruise it. So head injuries, even mild ones that occurred a long time ago, can be a major cause of depression, anxiety, and later in life memory problems. There was a study done by Mayo Clinic that found that about a third of people who played football at any level had lasting brain damage. And so, if you've had a head injury, that's not good. But the good news is there are many things that you can do to help it heal. And, we're talking about diet. We're talking about supplementation, especially targeted supplements. I mean, if you've had a brain injury, taking stem cell nutrition is going to help you. And then other things I mentioned, hyperbaric oxygen therapy. If you've had a concussion or a brain injury, even if it's been years ago, hyperbaric oxygen can help your brain heal and get it started. The healing process, when you put any of these things into process, starts immediately. It may take time for your brain to get totally healed, but the process starts immediately. So when you put your brain into a better environment, it's going to heal.
So Barry, as you were talking about head trauma, what came to my mind is I have never played football, but I have skied and I do wear a helmet. I still have fallen and I've hit the noggin. And I guess I always thought that if I'm wearing a helmet, it's going to protect my brain. And I know talking to you as well as other people that focus on head trauma and brain health, that's not always necessarily the case. You can do everything right. And like you said, it may be something small that all of a sudden causes a head injury. So I think what we think of as head traumas isn't always those big things like, someone's smacking you in the head or you falling and hitting your head. It could be other things as well, falling with a helmet on your head, so that is just really interesting that this whole study of head injuries and head traumas has really what I've seen exploded in the last 2 decades.
Exactly. And I said our brain is soft like butter, and our skull is hard and has sharp bony edges. But the brain isn't. It can move around in your skull. It's surrounded by fluid. So when you hit your head, even if you're wearing a helmet, you protect your skull from maybe getting crunched. Sorry for the technical term. But you haven't protected the brain from sloshing around and hitting the skull hard. So that's what we're talking about here. And so, yeah, a whiplash, even if you're in a car accident, the seatbelt restrains you, but you still may have whiplash. Well, your brain has moved around, hit your skull hard, and there's a potential for some damage there. I had the pleasure of meeting Mary Seau. She's Junior Seau's sister, and Junior Seau was an NFL player for the San Diego Chargers, grew up in Southern California, and after retiring from football, became very depressed, committed suicide, and it was all because of the injuries from playing football. And so she started a foundation to do research and create awareness for kids in sports, because a lot of kids in sports that have had brain injuries are getting depressed, becoming socially inactive, and committing suicide. And I wasn't aware of that until I started getting into brain health. So yeah, helmets are great. They do not protect your brain to the fullest extent that you may think it does.
That is very sobering to know. I don't want to take light of something else you also said, and that is not a topic of today's discussion, but it is definitely something that needs to be addressed, and it's definitely depression and suicide. And that will be a subject for a different day. But anyways, I did not want to make light of that because it is a serious issue. So, and with that, take us to our next letter in the acronym.
We have to finish bright, T in bright. So the T is for toxins. And toxins are one of the most common causes of memory loss with aging. And so there's a lot of things that are toxic to our bodies. Prescription medications are toxic. We think of alcohol, and we may think of other chemicals, but prescription drugs can be toxic as well. So smoking, secondhand smoke are toxic to the brain. Mold exposure is toxic to the brain, and sometimes you don't even know you're being exposed to mold. Carbon monoxide, exhaust fumes, paint fumes, farm and garden chemicals, fertilizers and pesticides, heavy metals, including mercury, aluminum, and lead. A lot of people in my generation, and even my daughters who are in their early 30s, had fillings made of this silver amalgam that contained mercury. And that's toxic and has been found to contribute to some immune disorders. I had all mine removed, and so if you have those, check with your dentist and see. But so that, and then lead. Again, we had lead in gasoline. It's still in the soil, And one thing I learned is a lot of lipstick sold in the US has, there you go, has lead in it. So check the labels. And, it's been almost 50 years now, but the federal government, to clean up the air, took lead out of gasoline. But when they did, they left it in airplane fuel, especially for small private planes. And a study of 100 small aircraft pilots found that 70% of them had toxic looking brains, and it was caused by the lead in the gasoline from the airplanes. And then there's, there's medical procedures, chemotherapy and radiation are toxic as well. So, the best way to, if you expect you may have been exposed to toxins, get screened for it. By all means, decrease the risks. There's pesticides on our foods unless you buy organic, and sometimes I think even organic isn't 100% guaranteed. So, read labels, see what chemicals are in there that could be toxic to your body. And just don't buy it. Find a substitute. A lot of cosmetic products, and I mentioned household chemicals. There's companies out there that have toxin-free household cleaning products, and so look up those, find them. What else? To support detoxification, there's detox programs that you can get into, and I won't get into that today. That's not my specialty. But drinking water and sweating a lot, doing a sauna, that can help you detox. Soaking in Epsom salts can help you detox. Getting plenty of fiber in your diet will help with detox. But the most important thing is just avoid the toxins, and then take these other activities to detox what's already in your body. What else? Some foods, especially cruciferous vegetables, support detoxifying your liver. So foods like broccoli and cauliflower and cabbage, Brussels sprouts. So that's one way to help detoxify your body.
And so, Barry, with that, I just wanted to have our audience feel empowered, definitely not coming from a place of fear that, oh my gosh, this isn't my food. Oh my gosh, this isn't the environment. But anything that you do, no matter how small, if you do a lot of small things, the compound effect really matters. And anything that you do on a consistent basis to help improve your health, whether it's the foods you eat, the environment you're in, again, diminishing your exposure to toxins, all of that has a compound effect. And this is coming from a place of you get to control your health with the habits you choose and what you surround yourself with. And I just wanted to have the audience to get that as a takeaway and a sense of empowerment. Now we come to the M.
Okay, so M stands for two things: mental health and movement. Mental health is very important, and things like emotional trauma, chronic stress that creates depression, bipolar, ADD, ADHD, all of those are associated. Well, they're an issue for the people that have them today, but they're also associated with more lasting memory problems. So, if you have one of these conditions, you are going to be more prone to memory loss as you get older. And again, low blood flow in parts of the brain that's associated with Alzheimer's has also been seen in people much younger that have ADD or ADHD. So, blood flow again is important. And I'm not a mental health expert. I've become an expert on how to take care of the brain so it's healthier. So, if you have one of these conditions, by all means, see a professional, get it diagnosed, and hopefully you can start implementing some of the things we're talking about today, which will help. Treating a mental health doesn't necessarily mean medicine.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Barry, and I second that. Anyone needing help, please seek out professional help. It is time to destigmatize mental health needs, mental wellness needs. And yes, please get help. You owe it to yourself, you owe it to your family, you owe it to your loved ones.
Exactly. And, just things that we've talked about can help improve. Just the daily walking can improve your mood. It's good for you physically. It's also good for you emotionally. You're a runner. You know what the highs that runners get, and so exercise is important, and walking is good.
So Barry, take us to I.
So, all right, I is for immunity and infections. Infections are important when it comes to the brain or having them diagnosed and treated. Recently, there was a celebrity that was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. Fortunately, he got a second opinion and found out that it was really Lyme. In our studies with Dr. Amen, he mentioned other cases where his patients were diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and it was toxins or an infection. So an infectious disease, needs to be addressed. If you have an issue, go to the doctor, get the infection addressed. And the person Dr. Amen was talking about with antibiotics and hyperbaric oxygen was healed very quickly, and he was back on the road to, good mental health. So if you struggle with memory and you think you may have an infectious disease, by all means, go to your doctor and get it diagnosed. You can boost your immunity with, exercise, proper diet, keeping your vitamin D level high, taking probiotics because it's good for the gut health. And without good gut health, you won't have a strong immune system. Eating foods such as garlic and onions, mushrooms are good. And then, supplements that are antioxidants like vitamin C, I mentioned, and vitamin D. So I is for immunity and infection.
Barry, take us to N. What is the N?
N. N is for neurohormones. Hormones are essential to our memory. They're essential to our overall well-being. And what happens, like a lot of things in our bodies, as we get older, levels of hormones drop off. And so, some hormones are generated in the brain, and keeping a healthy brain can help keep those hormones up. So, we're talking about testosterone, thyroid hormones, estrogen, all of those hormones need to be kept at healthy levels to help the brain avoid aging. And so to keep your brain young, have your hormones tested and follow your doctor's directions to increase those levels. Then also, we talked about toxins, but there's hormone disruptors like pesticides and chemicals in personal care products. And so, again, get rid of things that you can that are creating the problem, and then work with your doctor to resolve the issue you have and protect your brain.
That's great advice, Barry. And now we get to D. What does D stand for?
Well, D stands for diabesity. And that's a word that Dr. Amen coined that represents diabetes and obesity. And often they come together, although lately I've met a lot of people that have diabetes that are certainly not overweight. Studies have shown, this is very interesting, studies have shown that as your weight goes up, the physical size and function of your brain goes down. With 2/3 of Americans overweight, this is the biggest brain drain in our nation. So, being overweight contributes to many health factors. It disrupts hormones, fat stores toxins. It certainly increases inflammation, which we know is not good. And so when obesity is combined with diabetes, the risk is even worse. High blood sugars damage your blood vessels, which affects the blood flow to your brain, and it decreases it. So eating right is key here to reducing those risks. So by all means, eat high quality calories and not more than you need to maintain a healthy weight. And if you're overweight, eat less so you will drop some of that weight, and exercise. Eat clean, healthy protein at every meal to keep your blood sugar low, in a proper range, and to decrease cravings. Focus on healthy fats from fish and nuts, and avocados, olive and coconut oils. Avocado, olive oil are great for your brain health. Eat carbohydrates that are low glycemic, that don't increase your blood sugar. Fresh fruits and vegetables, colorful fruits and vegetables. Limit the sugar and stay away from high glycemic carbohydrate foods like bread, pasta, potatoes, and rice, all of which are not only high glycemic, but they're inflammatory. And then I mentioned this before, use brain healthy spices like pepper, cinnamon, nutmeg, garlic, cloves, turmeric, and that will all help attack virtually all of the bright mind's risk factors. And so there's some simple things that we can do just in our daily eating habits. They may not be easy for all of us, but they are simple.
Barry, there is just so much that you covered with the singular topic of diabetes. By the way, I had never heard that term before, so I will definitely be using it. I also just wanted for our viewers emphasize that there is diabetes 1 and usually genetic. Diabetes 2, a lot of times it is very controllable through habits, through healthy eating, through smarter choices, through exercising. And that is really, correct me if I'm wrong, but what we're emphasizing here, it's what you have control over.
That's correct. And type 1 diabetes is no insulin or low insulin is being produced in your body, and that's when you need to take insulin to be healthy or to survive. Type 2 diabetes is our body becoming insulin resistance. So the insulin isn't allowed, our body is rejecting the insulin, and it's not allowing the glucose to get into our cells. And that is something that is totally controllable by diet and exercise and lifestyle. And just with all the processed foods we have and the fast foods available, and with kids spending more time on their computers and their cell phones and being sedentary, diabetes and type 2 diabetes and pre-diabetes in young kids is becoming an epidemic, and that needs to be changed. That's going to be another health crisis in America if we don't get it turned around.
Absolutely. And I think that topic in and of itself deserves a deep dive a different day. So Barry, that now takes us to S of our bright minds.
And yes, and the end of bright minds. S also has a dual meaning. It's for sleep and stem cells. It's estimated that over 60 million Americans have some sort of sleep-related issue. Chronic insomnia, sleeping pills, and sleep apnea all significantly increase the risk of memory problems. When you're sleeping, is the time that the brain cleans itself and detoxifies itself. The brain builds up toxins just like other organs in our body, liver, kidney, and so it needs to detoxify itself. It takes 7 to 9 hours of good sleep for the brain to detoxify. So if you're getting less than about 7 hours of sleep, the toxins are slowly building up in your brain and are going to contribute to brain aging. And also, less sleep is associated with weight gain, hypertension, accidents, and behavior issues. One study I heard, one thing I heard was that when you get less than 5 hours of sleep, your cognition is equivalent to having 2 or 3 alcoholic beverages. Your brain functions slower. So you can start to improve your brain by getting better sleep tonight. A lot of people think that alcohol helps you sleep, and it may make you tired, but later during the night, when the alcohol wears off and the sugar starts to take effect in your body, you're going to wake up, or maybe it's just going to bring you out of that sound sleep. And so your sleep isn't as effective, and you don't wake up refreshed. So there's a lot of ways to improve our sleep hygiene so we can sleep better. And there are people that really have some serious sleep issues. And I'm not addressing those. I'm addressing the typical person here. But stay off of your electronic devices for an hour or two. Stay away from the TV and your computer and your cell phone and your tablet. The blue light and just the brain excitation from what you're doing on those devices will help you not sleep as soundly. Make your room cool. Dr. Amen recommends 65 degrees. Keep it dark and quiet. And a lot of people like to have their phones near them on and or under their pillow. That's bad for several reasons. First, it disrupts your sleep, but secondly, the radiation emitted from the cell phone is very bad for your brain. It excites your brain, and it's just not good. So don't have electronics on near where you're sleeping. And you can do other things like meditate or tapping, EFT, emotional freedom, and listening to binaural beats can also be effective. So, and then lastly with S is stem cells. It has been thought in the past that once as we get older, our brain cells die and they never come back. Well, we know now that that's not true. And with stem cells, we can help our brain produce more cells to keep it younger and healthy. So stem cells are the building blocks of our bodies. And without them, our tissues and organs cannot be renewed. So it's been shown with research that stem cells can reproduce any type of tissue, including brain cells and neurons. And we have the ability to drastically improve the amount of stem cells in our body by eating the right foods, taking specialized supplements. Fasting helps produce more stem cells, exercise, and hyperbaric oxygen. So there's a lot of things, again, we can do on a regular basis to keep the stem cell population high and slow aging, not only in our brain, but in our whole body.
So many nuggets of wisdom. I want to keep you on for another hour, but I know I have to be respectful of your time. So many nuggets of wisdom. Thank you. And so you do also specialize in the stem cell nutrition supplementation space. I will go ahead and provide that link for our viewers. And for our viewers, we actually also recently had a sleep coach that specializes in sleep hygiene on a previous episode. So make sure to go back on that one. Barry, you continue to impress me. You are a published writer in multiple books, the 13 book series that you've been working on, which takes from Napoleon Hill's teachings. Please let our audience know a little bit about that collaboration you've done with other authors and where they can get the books.
Okay, well, thank you. Yes, I was invited to be part of a 13-book series called The 13 Steps to Riches, based on Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. And each one of our books, there are over 30 contributing authors, and each one of the books is the individual author's contribution on one of the chapters in Napoleon Hill's book. So you've got a plethora of information here. Think and Grow Rich. This is one of our earlier volumes. A couple of weeks ago, we just released volume 12, which is on the brain. And each of our books has guest authors, and John Assarath, who's a neurological scientist from San Diego, was our guest author there in that book. So you can pick it up online at Amazon or Barnes and Noble. Just go to their website and type in the 13 Steps to Riches. And I think our website, the 13stepstoriches.com, is still up. It will take you to Amazon. So thank you for that. And so just, to conclude on Bright Minds, and this has been very enjoyable doing this, but, to keep our minds bright, to keep bright minds, we only have to follow a few simple daily practices to have a better brain and a better life that goes with it. And, making the choice to do these now and make these changes in your daily routine will help you enjoy a longer and more healthful life. So thank you, Blanca. I know we've run longer than we had talked about. I hope this is useful to all your listeners.
Oh my gosh, it was useful to me, and I know it will benefit so many people out there listening. What an amazing acronym, Bright Minds. I learned a lot, and will you please come back again?
Yes, I will be happy to. I will be happy to. And there's more we can talk about on the brain and on my journey on what prompted me to dig in so much about our brains. So thank you.
Absolutely. And with that, thank you everyone for tuning into another episode of Your Health is Your Greatest Wealth. I am Blanca, and I am looking forward to seeing you on our next episode. Bye.